Let's make the case for why Texas A&M is such a good job.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. I hope everybody had an outstanding Thanksgiving. I know I did. I hope y'all felt the same way. I hope you enjoyed football. So I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving with your families. Wanted to say that. I'm very thankful for all you everydayers over here at Locked On Aggies. I love what I get to do on a day-to-day basis for y'all. So thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. And hope you had a great holiday and a good time visiting family, watching football, and so on and so forth. But today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Today, I have three kind of, what's the word to describe these topics? I would say interesting conversations to bring up. And, normally over here at Locked On Aggies this week, we've been kind of discussing, here's a name, and we're going to talk about pros and cons. Today, we're going to talk about, Texas A&M more as a whole, the coaching search as a whole, and some different thoughts I have. So the first thought I want to discuss is why I believe, and why many others I very much respect in this industry, believe Texas A&M is a top job in the country. And when I say top job, I'm not saying number one. I'm saying it's a place coaches want to be. I've seen a lot of people, and I think the best argument I've seen on this is Josh Pate, once again, someone I really respect in this industry, incredible at what he does. And, I base my argument kind of on what he bases his argument on. But a lot of what I see when people kind of, are saying Texas A&M isn't a good job, a lot of people's argument is there hasn't been a lot of winning. There hasn't been championships and success and all that. I look at this Texas A&M job, and I think that coaches, are absolutely licking their chops to come coach at Texas A&M. Or maybe if it's not come coach at Texas A&M, it's coach at a program similar. And the reason that is because look at what the resources they have. Okay, look at the resources. And I know I'm going to have people in the comments yelling at me, no, it's not a top job. And once again, I want this to be back and forth. But I think people like Texas A&M has in essence become a bit of like a joke to people. It has. And frankly, I get it to a degree based on what this program has done with the resources they've had. But it's simple as this. NIL is a new thing. NIL hasn't been around a very long time, okay? It's a new thing. You had a coach in Jimbo Fisher who was washed. He wasn't the guy. He was not the right coach for Texas A&M. He's not the right coach for anybody. He wasn't successful, okay? It was a swing and a miss, and it was a big swing and a miss. We're talking a Javier Baez swing and a miss. And that happened. You failed. You failed last time bringing in a coach. It was a dumpster fire. You had to pay the guy almost $80 million to leave. Okay, so that explains how bad this failure was. If you get the right coach to Texas A&M, they can succeed. They can succeed because of what they will be given. Now, you could make the argument, well, Jimbo Fisher had a top 5 blue chip ratio in college football. Why didn't he succeed? You might say, well, yeah, you can't buy players. He can have all the top players. You still have to develop. I think where Jimbo Fisher struggled was the development factor of coaching. I think if you bring a proven head football coach, X's and O's, that can develop talent, can develop. And that's why we talked about the names, the name Ryan Day floated around a little bit. And I'm recording this a little early, so if his name gets ruled out, I'm not saying he's going to be the coach. I'm just making an example of this. But he has proven he can develop talent. Ohio State's a school that gets very similar talent to Texas A&M. Ryan Day is developing that talent and turning that talent into NFL players. Now, you can argue that he's kind of struggling a bit to win championships over there, or to win the big game over there, which is true, but he's developing talent and he's putting himself in a position to where in November he's playing a football game to pretty much go to the college football playoff. So Texas A&M really hasn't been in that position a ton. And so that's what I'm getting at. I guess my whole argument really here is this. I don't think the history of the program in the new world of college football is what matters. I'm sorry, you can't convince me of that. Now, if you wanted to have a conversation of like blue bloods and blue chip programs, sure, yes, I'm not going to argue that. I'm not going to argue that's what Texas A&M is because that is where the history of the program comes and is important and matters. Yes, not going to get that argument from me because that would be crazy on my part. What I am arguing is that right now in the landscape of college football with the new rules, the new things that happen, all this new stuff, Texas A&M is a top spot for head coaches because it's like Lane Kiffin. I still have this theory, which is just speculation. There's no, I have no proof to this theory, but I still have this theory that the reason that Lane Kiffin disliked Jimbo Fisher so much is because he kind of, and I mean, I get it. It wasn't crazy hard to dislike Jimbo Fisher, but I think he looks at that talent he had on the roster, that Jimbo Fisher had on the roster, and kind of went, I could win so many football games with that talent, and I think it made him mad. Like I said, I don't know that. That's just me, saying something. But, I mean, you're telling me that top coaches, like I'm trying to think of names that aren't like obviously Saban and Kirby Smart and Harbaugh. I know he's got stuff going on right now, but could win with this talent. But I think if you take that a step further, maybe go to the top 10 head coaches in college football, I think they win with this talent. You're telling me a guy, Dan Lanning, I know that he's not going to be the next head coach of Texas A&M, but I think you bring him in and Texas A&M's competing for national championships probably in year 2, maybe even in year 1 with the talent and who he is as a coach. That's what I'm arguing. I am arguing this. Texas A&M had the wrong coach, which made the program look horrible, made the program look awful. If you make the right hire who can come in and develop use the resources properly, develop the talent you have in the NFL players, develop the talent you have, develop 4 and 5 stars into NFL draft picks and develop the 3-star guys into college, into Power 5 starters. That is who you need to coach at Texas A&M. And there are coaches out there that can do that. The guy you had couldn't. He was the wrong decision. He was the wrong hire. So that's why, to me, if I am a top 25 head coach in college football, some might say, well, maybe they're at a top 25 job. Texas A&M is a step up because of the resources they have that these coaches can use. Yes, my whole argument is resources. You're not going to get, that is all I have here. That is all I got. It is resources, but that's all you need resources wise. And also Texas A&M can pay you. Texas, as if you're a head coach. That was something Texas Aggies was talking about. I mean, they'll pay you. These boosters, they will pay you. If you come in and win football games, they're going to make it happen. So, this is what my argument for why it's top job. So, those of you that like I said, this is what I want to challenge. I want to challenge those of you non-Aggie fans that are going to come to this video and be very upset by these comments, which is completely fair. If that's your opinion, you're more than entitled to it. This is what I challenge you to do, though. If you disagree with me, in the comments, the way I want you to attack the argument to me is I want you to explain it. I don't want to hear anything about win-loss. I don't want to hear anything about record. I don't want to hear anything about history. You know what I mean? Because to me, I don't think that stuff is relevant when it comes to coaching searches, to top programs for coaches to be at. I think that's relevant when it comes to what's a blue chip program. So give me an argument for why the resources are irrelevant, that kind of thing. Because to me, that's what matters. And if you have a sound argument for why the wins and losses and stuff matters, I'm more than welcome to hear it. But I don't think you're going to change my mind on that. So if you disagree with me, and once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm for sure right. I'm giving y'all my argument on this case. If you disagree, please tell me why. I appreciate it. I'd like to see other people's opinions and have discussions and have it lead to more fun conversations going forward. So I appreciate it. Leave some thoughts in the comments. I'll read them, I'll respond to them, and we'll discuss. So I appreciate that. It'll be a fun conversation in the comments. We are now going to talk about why Ross Bjork had some interesting comments on the expectations for Texas A&M's next head football coach. And was Dan Campbell the plan and you swung and missed on Dan Campbell? We'll have those two conversations coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But we have got to talk about our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. So we are now going to have a couple interesting conversations. First, this is an article from All Aggies on Fan Nation over at SI. And it was just a quote article about Ross Bjork's comment. So I want to read through those because they're interesting. So he says this. He says, Ross Bjork says, do you have the chops to deal with this job? Not for everybody. It's not for everybody. He then goes on to say, this is not an 8-4 job. It's not. Because of the decision we made on Fisher, but also because of the resources and expectations. Does somebody have the wherewithal to deal with that, the weight of the job and the magnitude, and not get phased and rattled, not panic, and if something doesn't go right, they fix what needs to be fixed? So that's what Ross Bjork had to say. He has a few more comments here. Part of it is how we've done coaching searches here. We've never done a market-based competitive landscape, national type search. We've never really done that. We've always focused on one or two folks that made a hire that hasn't really worked. And that hasn't really worked. Let's get the right person. We're talking to a lot of people. So hearing that, I think what I like from that quote from Ross Bjork. One second here. Excuse me. What I like from that quote from Ross Bjork is I don't think this athletic department wants to settle for mediocrity anymore. I trust Ross Bjork is going to make the right hire. I don't think he wants this program to be mediocre anymore. I think he wants this program to be a top program in college football. And as I said, as I just got done arguing, I think you are the right coach away from being there. So I do think I liked those quotes. I like that fire from Ross Bjork. I do. I liked that. I like to hear he's not going to settle. They're not going to settle for being a mid-college football program. They're not going to do it because the resources are too good to be a mid-college football program. They're not going to settle for mid, and I love that. I respect that. I'm very glad to hear that. So those are my thoughts on what Ross Bjork had to say. And now I want to say, we've talked about, we're going to talk a little bit about Dan Campbell, the GOAT. I mean, I know he's not going to be Texas A&M's next head coach, but I think we need to just take a moment to talk about how awesome Dan Campbell is. The dude is just awesome. But okay, back to what we're talking about here. They reached out to Dan Campbell, which here's the deal. Make him say no. Which they did, and he did, and I loved his comments. He'd love to help. I mean, Dan Campbell is awesome. I loved his, he wants to help his team, so He's willing to help, but he said he's willing to do anything but coach. But my original concern, because that report kind of came out early, like 5-6 days ago, and my kind of concern there was like, was Dan Campbell the plan? And what I mean by that is when you fired Coach Fisher and paid that buyout, one thing I immediately came on here and said was, I hope they have a plan. Which I believe they did. Like I said, we talked about when they got rid of Coach Fisher. It was a meeting like the Thursday before the Mississippi State game, and they made. So I assume what was talked about in that room was, let's write down a list of guys we think we can go get. And I don't think Dan Campbell was the only name on that list, but I still think it's worth the conversation. And I guess one thing I don't know, my dad and I were talking about this actually this morning, but one thing I don't know are the rules on like when you can reach out to coaches. I'm sure there's maybe there's not though, because I'm thinking like, some coaching hires, like I remember Hugh Freeze last year, they reached out to him, Auburn reached out to him, and when he was still coach. So I guess you can reach out early, but Dan Campbell's one of the first people they reached out to. I think he's very happy with his football team. I think they're 7-2 right now. So he's very happy where he is. And I just want to make sure that wasn't like the plan. That wasn't like they were sitting in the boardroom and they wrote down, it was like in that movie Draft Day. It was Dan Campbell, nobody else on the little piece of paper. Like, I hope Dan Campbell wasn't the plan, because nobody ever thought this was realistic. And I don't think it was. But I still think it's worth a 2-minute conversation of, was Dan Campbell the plan moving forward? I don't think it was, but I still think it was worth the conversation. But I'm glad to hear. Hopefully they reach out to Dan Campbell and maybe get his opinion on who they should go get. I think that'd be great. I'd love his input to be part of it. So those are just my thoughts on the coaching search, where we're at right now on, Friday. I think everything I'm hearing, you could see a coach hired a couple days after the LSU game. I think you could see that. So I don't think we're far away, folks. I think we are starting to get closer and closer to knowing who Texas A&M's next head football coach is going to be. That is going to wrap up our discussion on the coaching search for the week. Now we are going to run through some keys to a victory over LSU on Saturday. We'll talk about that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. First, I have got to tell you about our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to go get tickets, whether it's to a comedy event, whether it's to a concert, whether it's to a ball game. Game Time is the place to go get tickets for whatever sporting event it might be, whatever country concert, rock and roll concert, comedy. That's the place you go to get your tickets, because they're in the business of saving people money. And that's what I love. So many of their competitors only care about, raising prices and making things harder on hardworking people. That's not what it should be about. This is going to events like this are supposed to be stress relievers for people. Having to pay high ticket prices is not what people want to be doing. And that's what Game Time is trying to do for all of us. And I absolutely love it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So, a few keys to victory. I know we haven't broken down this ball game as much as we generally would, but there's just too much going on right now. I hope everybody enjoyed yesterday's crossover with Caroline Fenton over at Locked On LSU. She's great. That was a great conversation. It was good to talk to her. So keys to a victory. I have here, and a lot of these, okay, beating LSU is going to take a lot of things going Texas A&M's way, right? I think we can all agree on that. So some of these keys to a victory are a little bit like some stuff's going to have to go your way. You're going to have a few breaks, kind of go your way if you want to win this football game. So one thing I have here is 2+ turnovers, but I think you have to win the turnover ratio by 2, whether it's 2-0, 3-1. You got to win the turnover ratio by 2 because this game, they're going to score points. Okay. I know Texas A&M's front seven is great. I know Texas A&M's front seven is great. One thing I just remembered that I wanted to bring up, and it's why I thought about it. Everybody in Aggie land needs to be praying for Edgerrin Cooper. He just lost his girlfriend, and it's really tragic. It's really hard to see that. I meant to say that at the beginning of the episode and forgot, but Coop, we're praying for you, buddy. I know this is tough. All the players have been supportive and saying things, we got you. So, Coop, we love you. Everybody here, every listener at Locked On Aggies, we love you. We're praying for you, buddy. We're praying for the family in this situation. So it's just something to keep in the forefront of your mind while enjoying family time that Edgerrin Cooper's going through it right now. So we need to all Aggie fans need to have his back. And so, buddy, Coop, I know you're not tuned in, but we're praying for you. And I know everybody here feels the same way. So I wanted to say that real quick. But this football game is if you're going to win this football game, it's going to be LSU is going to score points is what I'm trying to say. LSU is going to score points. You have to find a way to match them. And that's why I think turnovers are so important. You have to take care of the football, long drives, put points up on the board, and then, take it away. Because football is a game. You only get so many drives. If you turn the football over on a couple and don't score on a couple, and Texas A&M is scoring constantly, they can win this football game. I think that there's going to be more motivation than people give the Aggies credit for, just based on they're going to be fighting for Coach Robinson. They're going to be players are going to be fighting for playing time next year. There's a lot on the line in this football game for Texas A&M. I don't think they're going to be going into this game saying, okay, we got one more game, and then we got a couple weeks off in a bowl game, and then we're done. Like, that's not how these players are looking at this game. This game is very important to them. And I said yesterday on the crossover with Caroline, a team with nothing to lose is a very scary thing, and that's what this Texas A&M team is right now. So 2 turnovers. We're running out of time, so I'm kind of going to run through these. I have touchdowns, not field goals. We talked about this a lot, but, and that was something Coach Fisher talked about a ton before he was obviously let go, but you can't kick field goals. That was true against everybody, but against LSU, you cannot kick field goals. You will not win this game if you kick field goals. It has to be 7 points. You have to be kicking extra points, not field goals, or you will not win this game on the road. I know it's an early kickoff and the environment's not going to be what we always discuss, but still, if you're kicking field goals, you're not going to win this game. Don't let Jaden Daniels have long throws. Don't get over the top, get in the secondary. Can't let it happen. It's not going to be an easy ask for Texas A&M and their secondary that we know has struggled. But you can't let Jaden Daniels beat you with deep throws, and you got to be able to contain him. You got to keep the edges. You got to maintain the edges. You got to spy on him. You got to make sure he doesn't leave the pocket. And then when he does go to release the football, you can't let him complete 50, 60-yard bomb touchdowns to Neighbors and his other great receivers. You can't let it happen. And then you have to get pressure on Jaden Daniels. Pressure is going to lead to those turnovers we talked about. Have to get pressure on him. And then the other important key inside of that key is when you do get pressure on Jaden Daniels, don't let him escape. Don't let him escape. Someone's got to spy on him, and you got to make sure that you are getting pressure on him in this ball game. If you don't get pressure, Texas A&M is not going to win this game. If you don't get pressure, they're going to put up 570 yards of offense, 400 through the air, and they're going to win this game with ease. I want to add the caveat. I'm recording this a little early. I've got some travel going on for family, so I wanted to record Friday's show early. So I'm going to talk about Jalen Henderson like he's the starter. And if Max Johnson ends up being healthy enough to give it a go, you can just switch his name in here. But Jalen Henderson, Max Johnson, I assume it's going to be Henderson, has to play a great football game. I've been incredibly impressed with Henderson and what he's done since he's been at Texas A&M. I mean, truly, in the 2 games, I have been very happy with what we've seen from him. I think this guy's going to be a great player in the future, but he's got to be able to do it on the big stage against an LSU. Mississippi State and Abilene Christian. Can you do it on the road against LSU in Tiger Stadium? That is going to be what matters, and it'll be very interesting to see if he can do that. I also have that Henderson needs to scramble a lot if he's pressured. We know Texas A&M's offensive line has struggled this season. If those struggles continue, Henderson needs to be willing to leave the pocket and run, because he is much quicker. He looks great running the football. Max Johnson was fine, but Henderson's better at it. So Henderson, if you're getting pressured, go. Just go, get 6-7 yards, live to play another snap. I'd rather a 4, 5, 6 yard gain or even a 2-yard gain than a 5-yard loss. So if you're getting pressured, escape the pocket. And those are my keys to victory for a win over over LSU. I also have here running backs need 150 on the ground. We're not going to go into depth on it because I'm out of time, but it'd be great to see the running backs go for $150. But that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Like I said, I hope everybody has an outstanding or had an outstanding holiday. I keep forgetting I'm recording the day before Thanksgiving. Everybody have an outstanding holiday. Have a great time with family. I hope you did. Because you're watching this on Friday. I hope it was great. Hope football was great. Hope everybody's fantasy football teams are great. Hope the turkey was great. And once again, I am thankful for everybody that tunes in every day. I really appreciate it, ladies and gentlemen. I've been doing this for about 5-6 months now, and it's truly a dream job. It's amazing to be able to do this podcast every day for y'all. So thank you. And I couldn't do it without you. So I'm very thankful for you, all you everydayers that listen to me every single day. Thank you so very much. Have a great rest of your day today. Have a great Black Friday shopping, and we will see you for a reaction show after the LSU game on Saturday.